can see on your screen there, Joel Fitzgibbon, he has been the Shadow Resources Minister for Labor. He has quit the front bench to go to the backbench. Now, Sky News understands he visited Anthony Albanese to tell him this morning, and he has just told Labor caucus this is what he's doing. You will note we brought you news such as the so-called peace accord that was ostensibly between Joel Fitzgibbon and Mark Butler to do with gas policy for Labor. There's been a lot of tension between the right and left of the party over environment policy, setting emission standards as well. Well, Joel Fitzgibbon has told the caucus that he saw Anthony Albanese this morning. He's been doing what he can to rebuild the party. That's what Joel Fitzgibbon has said. He's mentioned that Albo and him are friends, although they've had a few dust-ups recently, so being pretty frank about what's happened. He says, everything I've done has been to help and build Labor and to deliver Labor government. Now, this is interesting what he said next, that we can't expect people in Jed's seat to vote the same as people in regional Queensland. That's a reference to Jed Carney, of course. She is a member in the seat of Cooper. But what's interesting about this is you might remember the by-election that was held for that seat. And when that was held, Bill Shorten was accused of saying one thing down there in Melbourne and another thing up there in Queensland, indicating that Labor understood what the inner city of Melbourne might have thought around coal, and then perhaps tried to have a slightly different line in Queensland, or a different emphasis at least. So that's quite an interesting line he's put in there. There's been a lot of tension, and in fact, when you look at the so-called peace accord we brought to you on gas policy, it did seem as though there was plenty in there for Joel Fitzgibbon, talking about we do think that gas has a key role to play, including getting to net zero by 2050. Joel Fitzgibbon has been pushing for Labor not to have too ambitious a short-term policy on climate, because he says we won't get elected that way. If we really want to change things, we need to get elected, and we can't be too ambitious, essentially, is what has he been pushing? Look, both publicly and privately as well, but he has been very outspoken of late. As I said, a lot of tension. That's what he has just told Labor caucus this morning after visiting Anthony Albanese. So we'll have plenty more on that coming up.